So we'll take a look at creating some techno drum rhythms using D16's Drumazon in this video. Drumazon is a 909 emulation, and as soon as you hear some of the drum sounds on this drum machine, you'll realise how widely that 909, if you're not familiar with the 909 sound, you realise how commonly it's used in techno music and a lot of other music as well. So I loaded up D16 on we can actually load it up as a standalone, but there's some useful stuff we can do with it inside a DAW. So I've got it loaded inside Logic here. I've brought it up on a channel. I've pulled the volume down because it can be quite loud. At the moment, it's just going to play. It's got internal sync on, so it's got its own tempo in here, but you could actually change if you had it as a standalone. But if we take off this internal sync, it's going to sync to the tempo of our project 126 in this case. So now it's playing back at our host tempo. And a couple of things we can do to begin with is look at some of the patterns that are preloaded with the Drumazon and some of the presets, and then we can get stuck into customizing our own drum rhythms. So you can actually scroll through patterns at the bottom here. At the moment we're on banks 1 to 5, and we can scroll these first 12 buttons here. We can actually scroll through different patterns clicking on these. And I think something about that 909 sound especially is the low toms, the mid toms, the rim shots, the cymbals, the bass drum. You know, you just hear that in so many techno tunes today still. It's just that classic sound that is such a nice sound. And we've got various different banks in here. Lovely clap sound as well. And you also have up here presets. So at the moment it plays back all these drum sounds. There's various parameters that we're going to get stuck into in here, but you can actually, if I hit on this next button here, you see all these parameters around here change. I'm going right into the red there. All of these parameters change. So you have different presets, different drum presets that are all quite hot on the levels. You can just click through some of these. So some really cool stuff to get stuck into. I just reset the instrument there, take off that internal sync. But one of the cool things is, say if we go on this first bank here, I'll double click it, so rather than it being dimmed out like that, the light is lit, and then I think I'll get to our next set of bank, which are empty banks. So now I've just got this empty bank, so we could start programming something in here. And if we go to this middle section of the Drumazon, I can hit on this button here, pattern right, and now this control over here selects each one of these different drum sounds. So at the moment BD is bass drum. We also have the snare drum, the low tom, the mid tom, the high tom, the rim shot, clap, closed hat, open hat, crash, ride. So we select which one we want to start programming, and then we draw in or just highlight whichever step we want the drum sound to sound on. And then we've also got tonal accent. We've got a couple of other things over here as well. Tempo, which is going to be locked to the host tempo, so this is disengaged when you're in a plug-in mode. We've got flam, so we can do drum flams, shuffle, tonal accent. So if we click on host mode here, we actually can trigger patterns from the MIDI keyboard. Which is pretty cool as well. And check that. So let's go ahead and program something in here. So I'm going to start on this bass drum here, the BD, and I put something forward to the floor. So you notice I click it twice. If you just hit it once, you get a very soft drum. And if you hit it again, it's like doubling up the velocity. So do something forward to the floor. Go to this snare drum. Put that on the 5 and the 13. Maybe on the 16 as well, but on a soft, like a soft hit, low velocity. Go to the low tom. Mid tom. Maybe had a high tom in there. Some room shots. Clap to reinforce the snare. Or we could just mute the snare quite easily there. You can also solo drum sounds here as well. Some closed hats. You can see how quickly you can start to get a really cool techno rhythm going. Crash, rides, we could add some shuffle, and you also have the flam here. This is really cool. So if I solo up the mid tom, we've got a few hits, and you had a few extra hits like this. Like that. We could go over here and go to flam. Highlight this flam button and then just put the flam on these notes as well, and have a larger flam amount or a lower, lesser. And also tonal accent. So we go to this final control here, add extra tonal accent if we want. And the amount of tonal accent that's applied or added, control here. And then you've got the drum sounds as well, so you can really tweak these. So we've got tone on the kick, decay. So really boomy techno kick drum sound, attack. I actually sample this kick drum quite a lot and then start processing it, bounce it out as audio and then start processing it or laying it with other drum sounds because it's got that classic 909 body. Really tweak these drum sounds. Obviously tune them to the key of your track, whatever key you're working in. So for the first 5 hits, you've got quite a lot of control over what the sample parameters, and then for the more kind of like rides and cymbals and hi-hats, it's more just like decay and tune. And another great thing about the Drumazon is you can have it as a multi-output instrument. So I just got it loaded as a normal AU. But if I go to Drumazon and go multi-output now, it should reload that same instance. But if I go to my mixer in Logic, I get this plus button, so I can actually start adding external outs and bring these individual sounds, samples, into separate channels on Logic. So at the moment, the bass drum's on output number 1. If I just click and drag up there, it goes to 2. I could put the snare on 3, the low tom on 4, five, and so on. And now they're all on. All of these drum sounds are coming down different channels in Logic, and I mean that's great because then I can start processing them with Logic's plugins, EQs, compressors, and what have you. So Drumazon, really useful tool. If you don't have Drumazon, we're going to look in the next video at programming some 909 rhythms using Machine. And actually using the Machine hardware as well for that quick sort of vibe. So come and check us out for that video. Alright, cheers.